welcome to Thinking Women,
the intelligent conversation show.
Hi, I'm Mags and welcome to our September back to school show.
And I'm Lou and it's so great to be here, isn't it, Mags?
It is, it's lovely, so nice. So we've got a stellar group of people joining us today as guests. Henry Tapper joined me earlier on today from London to talk all things pensions.
And in the studio, I'm with Dom Salunke, who's an amazing person to follow on Instagram because she does all things vintage styling. So it's so exciting to chat to her. And during lockdown, proper lockdown, I caught up with the wonderful Chloe Brotheridge. Chloe's a hypnotherapist, a coach, and author of The Anxiety Solution, which was a best-selling book. So that's a great interview. And she's going to talk about all things going back out into the world, you know, when we're feeling a little bit anxious. So absolutely brilliant.
Amazing. So we've got a good diverse mix of people for you. Anyway, what has been in your inbox this month, Lou?
Well, I'm still thinking lockdown, and as we're kind of going into another phase of lockdown, I don't know about you, Mags, but my hair just hasn't been right.
The hair has changed, hasn't it? It's just different now.
We're just in weird hairdos.
Yeah.
So I was looking around the internet about what to do with my hair, and up pops dreadlock wigs. So I was thinking, you know, if you're really struggling, you don't know what to do, pop a dreadlock wig on.
I mean, the thing with a dreadlock, I mean, it takes a bit of time to actually develop, doesn't it? So if you do want that look, having the wig going straight to it is probably going to be a better option than trying to, you know, work it through.
Possibly. And they come in crazy colours, so you can, like, you know, feel vibrant. But I must admit, I did wonder when I looked at these, I thought, where did they get them from? Where did that hair come? Well, I think so. I don't know.
Who knows? Anyway, if anyone's got any experience of the dreadlock wig, then let us get in contact and send us a photograph.
And what about you, Mags? What have you been saying?
Well, so I have back to the candle theme with me, the smelly candle.
We love a smelly candle on Thinking Women, do we not?
So we've had the McDonald's candle, we've had the Gwyneth candle, but this one is the Apple Mac candle. Take a look at this.
So it's a candle. Yes, I can see that. And it smells like a computer.
Like your computer, yes. And what's
I'm slightly lost for words on this.
Brilliant. Well, I'm guessing it's for the people that would like a new Mac but maybe can't quite afford one.
Right.
So they can have the experience and the ambience of the new Mac smell
without
having to fork out for the actual real thing.
All right.
And this is interesting because this is version 2. So Apple have issued 2 of these things.
So version 1 smells different.
Version 1 presumably smells a little bit different because the previous Mac smelled different to the new Mac. Who knows? Again, if anyone's got one of these, if anyone can shed some light on it, then that would be fantastic. But I'm fascinated.
I am fascinated. I mean, I can understand, you know, like, I might, if I wanted to get Chanel-y, like a designer, if I can't afford the jacket, the Chanel jacket, I'd get the red lipstick.
Yeah.
So this is the same
Maybe
concept?
it's a similar thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well.
Similar thing. Anyway.
Do let us know.
Yes. Over to our first guest.
So I'm joined now by the very wonderful Dom Salunke, who has an Instagram account called Bitches Who Buy Too Much, which I just love it. As soon as I found her on Instagram, ladies, because she's so cool, and just Bitches Who Buy Too Much just made me laugh, because that is most of us,
I think,
isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
So what Dom is really amazing at is actually finding vintage clothes and kind of turning them around and showing us that it actually can be like a designer outfit that's current, which actually is magic as far as I'm concerned. So we've brought her on to Thinking Women today to kind of show us your magic and so where did this idea start? Tell us a little bit about yourself first. Where did you get this idea from and realise you could do this?
I mean, I guess it comes from years of being interested for a start. I think, you know, when I was younger, I was lucky enough to attend lots of fashion weeks, and I've studied fashion at university, and I think you inherently just develop an interest in fashion. So I was really exposed to all of the trends and all of the amazing designers, but as I've just said, you know, I was a student, I can't afford to do that. So it just came from trying to substitute the things that I had seen with things from vintage shops. I was really lucky. I was surrounded by Brick Lane, the most amazing vintage shops ever. So it made that really, really easy. But yeah, it was never like a conscious idea. It was more just, I want to look like that, but I don't have
I can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's kind of most of us, actually.
Yeah,
It's at the end of the day.
especially
And that's
now.
why what you're doing is so amazing. And it ties in with the sustainability concept, which I know you're really massive on too.
Yeah.
And that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeah, I think especially at the moment where you can have, you know, everything's at your fingertips and everything can be there within a second, it's really important to understand, for me, being from a fashion background, the context behind things as well, and understand why things are being made and the fact that you can give them another life. And yeah, I think it's a really amazing thing. I have done talks about sustainability in the past, about clothes, the amount of clothes that go to landfill. But even if, you know, just from a design aesthetic, to understand where these amazing trends are coming from, I think is just invaluable, really. And it's something that you can then kind of start to incorporate into your wardrobe a bit more.
Well, this is what's really interesting, and what I find really interesting about what Dom's doing is finding in the vintage shops these pieces where you can tell that the top-end designers have taken their original inspiration from. So, should we have a look at this? 'Cause I think this is so cool. So what have we got first up?
So this is actually from a local vintage store, and so at the moment one of the really on-trend brands is Zimmermann and Love Shack Fancy. They're two really amazing brands that are very, very high price points. And I think you'll all have seen them on Instagram. They're really plugged down your throats at the moment. And this is something that's almost a dupe for both brands, actually. They both brought out something very, very similar. This is vintage. It's 50% wool, 50% acrylic. So you're still getting a high quality blend as well. So I think that's the other thing. Vintage doesn't necessarily have to mean just a load of rubbish. You know, the materials are
quality.
They are on par with the designers. Yeah. So this is something that I thought was really, really interesting. And, you know, dainty cardigans are really, really on trend at the moment over camis.
So that's a good dupe. Now, this is a word I hadn't come across until you told me it. So a dupe is duplicate, or
I guess, I imagine. Do you know, I'd never really thought about it, but I think that probably is what it stands for, a duplicate of another version. Yeah, that's something. I mean, I'm a massive fan of, including this. This is another piece that was from the same shop, which I think is really Isabel Marant style. They love their statement necks, and in fact, they've done a jumper this exact colour with a very similar shoulder very recently. So it's looking out, I think, for the design details. I think that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, so that's the key to look for, the tip to really look. And you're really big on your French fashion, aren't you? Which I love French fashion as well.
Really
so Isabel Marant's a French fashion designer.
I think the French fashion designers definitely the ones that pull from vintage a lot more. I think British probably do, but maybe in a different style to what I'm drawn to. But French designers, they just love a vintage
They plunder
piece.
That closet.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
So what else have we got?
In the same vein as that, this isn't a vintage piece as such, but it is a second-hand piece, because again, that's something else I do advocate. It's not just about vintage; it's just buying second-hand.
That looks cool and good quality.
Exactly. And this is just a mango coat. This is really, really reminiscent of, again, Isabel Marant doing the plaid jackets.
Shall I try that one on?
Yeah, this one would be good on you, I think.
I'm going to pop that over there.
I think you may be boiling.
I'll put it on for a minute, I'm desperate to try something on.
It looks so good with the orange.
Oh yeah, so that makes, so again, what you're mixing these second-hand or vintage items with is really important too, so to modernise it.
Yeah, I
think the orange modernises.
And again, not just modernising it, but still in keeping with your style. I think that's the really important thing. Like, I don't want people to think of vintage and think, oh God, I'm going to end up looking like I'm stuck in the 70s. It's like, you've got to pull in the things that you love as well. But this, I mean, I didn't know you were going to wear this.
I like this. I'm about to steal it off you. Now, talking of things from other eras, you've got a jacket there that I spotted. And this is hilarious for me. Dom looks amazing in this, so I want you to put that jacket on.
Am I all right to remove a jumper to do that?
Or? Your mic will go.
It will.
Just pop it on for a second.
Oh my goodness.
But what's interesting about this, I wore this kind of jacket first time round, so I'm a little bit scared of looking like a little bit of an old lady wearing that. I've just brought it out of my closet. But you look amazing in that. And again, with what you're wearing, the leather pants, or the pleather, leather.
These are pleather, yeah.
Yeah, we do pleather these days, don't we? Ooh. See, that looks really fresh and funky.
I think, again, we were discussing as well just like colours and things that kind of can kind of make it a lot more modern. I think to avoid the scary primary colours, to avoid the really cliched 80s Saved by the Bell colours, and go for colours that are a bit more muted. Yeah, because I mean, some could argue with me with that and just be like, that is outrageous. What are you talking about? But I look at this and, you know, I pulled a more wearable shades from it. You know, you see lots of creams, you compare it with neutrals.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's an exact runner.
So who's that? What's that?
Isabel Marant again.
Isabel
Marant.
I'm watching you, Isabel Marant.
She pulls so much from vintage pieces, and this. I think she did a few of these. Givenchy also did one for, I think, around the £1,500 mark. So it's like...
And how much did you pay for that?
I paid £9. So
there you go, ladies. £9, £1,500. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? But you've got to go and look for them, I suppose, as well. Can I take this off now?
Yeah, I was just...
As
my face
Let's just pop
sweat.
those back there.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? It's recognising... You know, fast fashion is called fast fashion for a reason, isn't it? And this is always going to be something that your reward comes a lot later, but the reward is mega.
Yeah,
you know, you're not spending loads.
Yeah, I know it's worth that effort. And if you enjoy clothes, if you enjoy fashion, that's sort of, you know, one person's trash is another person's treasure, isn't it? Yeah. And it's great. So what's the last look you've got there?
The last look, oh, this is one actually that I think this is probably how you contacted me, isn't it?
This was amazing.
So again, there's Isabel Marant who does this, but also Stella McCartney. Oh my goodness, this is 2 coats and a jumper.
It's a bit warm in the studio today.
So Stella McCartney brought
How
out
does that look?
A jacket that was very oversized, double denim, and I just saw this. This is 2 coats, so this is one jacket with a waistcoat over the top. And I just
that's your stylist vision. You've been able to put one, I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't look at that cut-off jacket and think that was anything fashionable, if I'm honest.
It's true, yeah.
But because you put that with that oversized denim, suddenly it's like a Chloe and £2,000 jacket or whatever.
I think that is the beauty of it, isn't it? Because I don't look at everything and think, oh my God, I want to wear that as is, like at all. I would never, this on its own, I'd just look disgusting. Some people would look amazing, but I personally wouldn't. And the only way I can wear it is if put it over something else.
So it's the double denim, done. Done cleverly.
Yeah.
So this is why you need to follow Dom on Bitches Who Buy Too Much, because these are the tips that she's going to, take it off, lovely. These are the tips that she's going to give you to show you how to style these pieces that you find, that you can find everywhere. So just as a wrap up, so if you're starting out on this journey of trying to kind of do the dupes, where do you get the inspiration? Where do you find out what the fashion companies are bringing out, and then where do you go to kind of do it? Is there a little process, a little secret that you can tell us?
I guess, I mean, there are 2 starting points, I guess. You've got to, kind of know your own style. So you've got to know what you're looking for with slower fashion, because you are the one seeking it out. It's not being given to you. And that, I think, is really important, knowing what you're looking for. And then before that, I would start just on Pinterest. So Pinterest has this amazing tool that I only discovered recently. And I think everyone thinks it's like a zoom tool, but it isn't. So if you're looking at an image on Pinterest, there will be in the bottom right-hand corner like a little magnifying glass. If you press that button, what it does is it brings up that image and lots of other things that look like it.
Okay.
So it actually shows you just this massive amount of things that kind of are similar. Some will link to shops, some will link to eBay links or things like that. So that's a really good place to start. So if you've seen something designer, get it on a Pinterest board, do that, see if you can find
your little magnifying glass.
Things.
Oh, amazing.
But another way that I love to do is just go on eBay. I have a whole section called Speciality, which is all vintage. I will go on the jacket section, change the thing from show, where you can say, oh, the one that's shown up most recently, I will change it to lowest price with postage. So it will start from the bottom and it will just bring up all these amazing things that you can just get for like nothing.
Lowest price. I like that.
It's the way that you can experiment as well. Like you don't have to invest loads of money to have a play. You can just spend a fiver, see if it works. If not, sell it on for 30 quid.
And then use a bit of your own creativity to get going.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Such top tips. It's been so amazing to have you in. Very
you.
hot in here with
It
all
is.
these jackets on, but we've
warm.
done it. Brilliant. Lovely. Thank you so much, Dom. So
Thank
follow
you.
her, follow Dom on Bitches Who Buy Too Much on Instagram and get all your inspiration for that sustainable and vintage fashion. Thanks again, lovely.
Thank you.
So how often do you think about your pension? It's something that isn't going to happen potentially now, but at some point it will, and it's important to be prepared. I caught up with Henry Tapper, the Pension Plowman, earlier to talk all things pensions and why it's important that you think about your savings for the future.
Hi Henry, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mags. Good to see you.
Fabulous. And by the wonders of Zoom, you've joined us on the Thinking Women show. We're so happy to have you here. Pensions is something I always get asked about by lots of people. And I thought, what better than getting our pensions guru, Henry Tapper, on to talk about all the things that I get asked all the time. Because I can answer it, but do you know what? Having someone else helping out is even better. So, firstly, pensions. Why should we think about them and why are they important?
Well, look at me, washed up, 58, yeah? Mental faculties impaired, physical faculties waning. Will I be able to work much longer? Doubtful. Bad news, but good news, I've got an income coming my way for the rest of my life because I have been in a pension scheme for most of my working life. And as a result of that, I look forward to the future with a degree of confidence, but sadly is not shared by many people.
Okay, and can I ask a question? When did you start saving for a pension?
I started saving when I entered into the pensions industry at the tender age of 22.
Okay, so you've been saving all through your career to build up the pension. Okay, now obviously you work in pensions, so you understand the importance of it, but for someone else who isn't in the industry and maybe is thinking, do you know what, I've got lots of things I need to buy this month, why should they put that money aside and why should they do it early? Because that is the thing, isn't it? You know, why this saving early can actually make a huge difference. I read something the other day that said, if you put £5 away for your child, from when they're born to, I think, 16 or 18, by the time they reach pension age, that will be worth £5 a day. That'll be worth £1 million. So how does that work? Why is the saving early thing so important?
Well, this is the magic of compounding interest. And that's all about making your money work for you. You know the phrase, money makes money. Well, once you started saving, there's a kind of momentum about what happens because you're getting interest every year on the money that you put in. And as long as you're doing it over a long period of time, that interest really becomes meaningful. We aren't really talking about interest, we're talking about investments here. So we're talking about growth on your money rather than interest. It's what the investments make. But it amounts to the same thing. Unless you're saving over a long period of time, you won't get sufficient in your pot to be able to retire in the style to which you are expecting.
Right, so really important to think about it before you reach that age where it becomes sort of more urgent. And what age can people draw their pension now?
Well, you can actually start drawing down your pension from 55, which is a pretty good thing. Most people will probably have to wait a little bit longer than 55 if their money isn't going to run out before they do. But modern technology being what it is, we're now beginning to see pension accounts where people can actually get a credit card and spend their pension just like it was a bank account. And people are getting very excited about these new, what are called pension freedoms. Us boring people know that if you spend all your money at once, you're not going to have a lot for later on in life. So obviously the usual cautions apply. But I think there's been far too much in the pensions industry about saving and keeping your money for the later and so on, and not quite enough about the fact that the money that you spend on your retirement is actually there for you when you are 55 and can be drawn down as you want.
Your bank account, isn't it? I think sometimes people think that they're putting money into a pension and they're losing the money, but actually they're not. They're just saving it and it's still there. I know when I now go onto my online banking, I can see my pension or some of it, because the company that runs my pension scheme is owned by my bank, and so that's all on there now. So it's so clear that pension money is mine, and I look at it and think, oh, I can't have it yet, but it's there and it's growing. So brilliant. So if you are 55 or older and you think you might have a pension but you're not sure, how can you find out where it might be and how you could draw that money?
Okay, well, the government's had a bright idea on this one. Back in 2015, the Chancellor promised us something called a pensions dashboard. It's a very exciting idea that you'll be able to see all your pensions in one place, just at the click of a button. And of course, technically, you can do this. It's a bit like what you were describing with your bank account. You can see your bank account and your pension in the same place because they're both run by the same company, same bank. But imagine that you could see everything: your state pension, the company pension schemes you joined, those workplace pensions you joined because of auto enrollments, and those particular savings plans that you established for yourself, and see them all in one place. Then you'd be able to establish how much money you've got and how you could actually sort of draw that money down in the most effective way for you. So that's
the plan. But what is there at the moment? What can
the reality is rather less than that, I'm afraid, mainly because the pensions industry is very bad at actually adopting these new technologies and keeps on trying to overcomplicate things. Well, I won't go into that now because there's really negative stuff. Actually, we will get a dashboard eventually, but right now, there are firms, I happen to run one called AgeWage, which help people to find their pensions and to see them all in one place and take decisions about whether they want their pensions in 5 or 6 different pots or in one big pot, whether they want to do things like buy a pension, an annuity it's called, or whether they just want to keep the money in their investment account and draw it down when they want it, or whether they want to take all their money at once and give themselves a great big tax headache. All those things are possible. Yeah, you just need the technology to do them. And anyone who wants to investigate these pensions, now's a great time to do it, because most of us are getting quite savvy about doing things online. And most pension companies now are finally getting around to putting websites together which are actually reasonably usable. But the website which I suggest you have a look at is a government site called the Money and Pension Service, MAPS.
Right.
Just Google Maps and you'll find a really helpful place which will give you guidance on what to do next.
Brilliant.
I'll tell you what to do, it'll give you guidance.
Brilliant. So we'll put a little link on our social media as well to that, in case people want to go and visit that, because I know it is a really helpful place. But going back to AgeWage, so you mentioned the company that you run. Now that's got a very specific extra thing that AgeWage does, hasn't it, Henry? So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, well, AgeWage is really for people who want to know a little bit more about how their pension's done. If you go to an estate agent, you can find out what the value of your house is and how it's grown since you bought it, all that sort of thing. And it's very real. Yeah, that's why we love houses, because we can see how they've done. Yeah, but with pensions, it's really hard. You don't get the information about the interest that you've received on your money since you've invested in it. It's very hard to actually understand. So we've invested quite a lot in finding a way to tell you how your pension's done since the time when you started investing. We give you
how good it is, whether it's a good pension or a not so good pension. Amazing.
So, yeah, it's like an experience score. You've got a credit score, 0 to 100, 0 to 1,000. Well, we do 0 to 100. If you've got more than 50, your pension's done better than average. If you've got less than 50, it hasn't done as well. And then you have to decide whether or not the ones which have done well are likely to continue to do well, or whether or not actually some of those ones which haven't done so well are likely to do better in the future.
Okay.
It's not quite as black and white as saying 50 good, 50 plus good, 50 minus bad, but certainly that's an indicator of where you're going. And it's a good site, more easy to understand pensions via a score like this, when those reams of paper that's arrived through the door.
Absolutely. I'm just giving it a score of, you did 70 out of 100 or 30 out of 100, it makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? So people could contact your company, say, this is what my pension is, and you'd go, right, yep, there's your score. That sounds amazing. What happens then if you get your score back and you've done less than average? What choices do you then have to improve?
Okay, well, one of the things you may have done is just made a wrong decision about where you've invested your money. I mean, you may have put your money in a Bolivian tin mine or something like that. Well, it's a little bit too late to give that now. Yeah, but you
make that choice yourself, as opposed to if you gave it to a pension provider, then they would make those choices.
So you can improve what you've got just by going back to your pension provider and making some more sensible decisions. But sometimes, you're just going to look at it and go, this thing here isn't very good. Yeah, I can see that I've got good ones and I've got bad ones. And you might want to move your non-performing money into your areas where you're getting your performance. You might want to move your money into an area where your pension fund will give you a credit card so that you can spend your money as you like. Or you might prefer to have something which is a little bit less racy, like an annuity where you get a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. Those kind of decisions are all there for you to take. But what you really need is some simple and straightforward information about what you've got before you start doing the clever things. So that's what we're about, making sure you know what you've got.
Amazing. Okay, so just moving on. So if you've not got a pension at the moment, how do you go about setting one up and making sure that you can start saving?
Well, the obvious thing to say is if you're in work, you should have access to a workplace pension. Even if you're self-employed, you can set up a pension for yourself. One of the best places to go to is a website called Nest, who will accept everyone, whether you're self-employed or whether you're in employment. But generally speaking, if you're in employment, go with your company's auto-enrollment scheme, because you're going to get your company's contribution on top of your contribution, which doubles things up. You should get some tax relief as well, which is very nice. If you're self-employed, I always think it's a good place to go to have a look at Nest, who will accept you. Or alternatively, go to that site I mentioned earlier, the Money and Pension Service, and go and get some guidance about the options you've got from them.
Yeah, I mean, they sound pretty key actually to as a place to visit and get information. Fabulous. Well, that all sounds pretty straightforward put like that. I'm sure we'll get lots of questions because it is a topic that people love to talk about and ask about. Thank you so much, Henry. It's been amazing having you on the show. And good luck with Age Wage, and I will hopefully see you soon.
Thanks very much indeed, Mags. It was lovely to be on the show.
Thanks, Henry. Bye.
So during the whole lockdown experience, the idea for a lot of us of going out into the world and doing sort of the things that were normal for us before have become a source of real anxiety. Certainly, I felt that. So I was honoured to be joined by the wonderful Chloe Brotheridge, who's a hypnotherapist, a coach, and the best-selling author of The Anxiety Solution. And she talked me through some tips and tricks on how to deal with it all. Chloe, well, here we are, just coming out of lockdown, and it's actually a very scary time for so many people, and I feel like the anxiety generally is high. Is that what you're finding as well?
Yeah, I think there's been anxiety about being in lockdown and the changes to routines, and now that we're coming out of it, there's this, fears, understandably, of going out into the world again, exposing ourselves to the virus again, and a lot of people are saying that anxiety levels are at an all-time high.
And people who don't recognise themselves as having anxiety are feeling this as well. Why do you think that happens? Why do you think there's is it like a collective anxiety that breathes out into everybody? How does it work like that? Or
yeah, well, anxiety is just fear, and fear is a completely normal emotion, and you only have to turn on the news to have that sense of fear instilled in you or strengthened in you. And we're out of our routines. A lot of people are worried about their livelihoods. People are worried about their health. Relationships have been strained over this time. So there's lots of reasons why we might be feeling more fearful. And I think it's completely normal. If people are feeling that way right now, it's completely normal. And yeah, I think there is a collective sense we talk to each other and we hear about different stories, or we watch the news, and that can all add to that sense of anxiety, I think.
I think that's a great point that you say, that it is normal. I think if we sort of if we add too much gravitas to it being sort of such a negative thing, is it, I think, denormalizing. If we accept that it's a normal and we're all going through it, it kind of makes it more copable with. Is that a strategy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a pandemic, and the whole world has been, swept up in this. It's completely normal if people are feeling frightened or unsettled, or, people might be struggling with their sleep right now. So I think it is normal. And I think there's a difference between anxiety, the mental health issue, and anxiety that all of us will experience from time to time. So it doesn't mean that you've got a mental health issue necessarily if you're feeling anxious right now. You can still be feeling worried or fearful. But that's not a reason to not get help at the same time. I think I really want to say that it's important to, if you are struggling, if it is affecting your day-to-day life, to speak to your doctor. GPs are really encouraging people to still go and speak to them about their emotional well-being, even with everything that's going on. So it's really important to do that.
Just recognising it and seeking help. Because there's obviously help there with people like yourselves. So what kind of things can people do maybe to help themselves in the first instance? Is there any sort of tips that you can give that people can use?
Yeah, so I suppose the simplest thing we can be doing is self-care. And sometimes self-care has a bit of a funny reputation, that it's indulgent, or that we shouldn't take time for ourselves. A lot of women in particular have this sense that you have to put other people first, but actually you're not able to look after other people unless you take care of yourself first. So doing what helps you to feel calm, taking more time for yourself, whether that's getting out and walking the dog, whether that's just sitting down and taking some deep breaths, getting a really early night, those sorts of simple things can really help. But self-care is so different for everyone. Some of us love baths, some of us find baths really boring. You've got to find what works for you, I think.
Just make a little list. That's what I did. I made this little list of things that make me feel good, that take me out of that. Actually, one of the things that I feel most, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, is overwhelmed. That's I suppose there's lots of emotions, but that feeling of being overwhelmed by information or doing something that you used to do but are scared to do, is that a common?
100%, yeah, it's definitely a word that I hear a lot of people using to describe how they're feeling. I think it's not helped by the fact we're on our devices a lot more. Over lockdown we've all been on our phones and computers so much more of the time, and so all that news intake, social media, emails, all that information.
It just feeds it, doesn't it? It does with me, and it's kind of, but it's addictive as well. So how do we break that, Chloe? Help us with that one. We need to know how to break the addiction.
Yeah, well, it is addictive. They found that, when we use our phones, our brain gets a hit of information, and it's the same addiction pathway as a cocaine user might have.
Oh, wow.
That means we pick up our phone 2,000 times a day. They found that we touch our phones 2,000 times a day. So that's a lot.
just don't touch it, just go there and then don't.
Yeah, so there's so many things that we could be doing. It might be that you, for example, on an iPhone, there's something called screen time, where you can set limits on how often you use certain apps, and the news app and Instagram and that sort of thing. It might be about deciding that every day at 7 p.m. you're going to put your phone in another room and not look at it after that, or even going as far as to get a real alarm clock rather than using your phone as an
Yes,
alarm
I
clock.
did that, and it's a massive thing.
Yeah.
Massive.
It works.
And it's a really simple thing, and maybe that's kind of what it is with some of this information, is they're really simple things to do a lot of the time, but sometimes we don't do the simple things. We think, well, that won't make a difference. But honestly, putting my phone in a different room when I went to bed and not pretending I needed it for an alarm clock, and then actually looking at it in the night, and then seeing negative information. You're looking, and then you suddenly start reading about negative stuff,
and then suddenly you've got this adrenaline, you can't go back to sleep, and not being able to sleep will make you more anxious. So
and then it all feeds in, absolutely. So I think maybe that what you're saying here is awareness. Being aware of what's going on is maybe the start of being able to help yourself in this process of, because there's two things, isn't there? One is the fear of the actual virus itself, which is still there, and we're getting all these mixed messages about the masks or not masks. And then the other thing is that we have to reintegrate ourselves into the world. So there's sort of two things that we're dealing with a little bit there. So just being aware of what's going on is the start of it, is it? Is that what you would say?
Definitely. And notice what are the signs for you that you're feeling more anxious. So do you find yourself being more irritable with your family members? That can be a real symptom of anxiety. Are you waking up at 5 a.m, wide awake? That's another symptom. Having digestive issues can be a symptom as well. So just really paying attention to your body and the signs that it could be showing you that anxiety is creeping up.
Okay, so we know those signs. So recognising those signs, and once you feel you've recognised them, it's then going into the self-care mode, seeking help.
Yes, yeah. So people can speak to their doctor. They can seek therapy. There's so many books and podcasts and so many different resources that people aren't thinking that they need to go down the therapy route, but just want to help themselves. Just do a bit of research and see what you can find. But I think, when we put a bit of attention on something, we can change things more easily. And sometimes it just takes that attention and saying, right, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to address this.
Yeah, and you can be strong. That's amazing information. Thank you so much, Chloe. That's so much that we can put into practice to take us forward into the next bit of life.
The new normal.
The new normal. Chloe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for another month. Thank you to all our wonderful guests, Henry, Chloe and Dom. It was a pretty amazing show, actually, I thought, all in all.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you guys for joining us as always. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what's on your mind via Twitter, Facebook or LinkedIn. And we'll see you again next month.
Take care,
Bye.
guys. Bye.